Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm in the tropics living my best life, but today I'm going to show you how you can add photos to your timeline, resize photos in Premiere, and of course, how to add just a little bit of tasteful animation to give your videos a little bit more dynamic pop. So let's go ahead, let's get into it. I'm going to present my screen, and I'm going to show you how easy this can be. So right off the bat, I have a demo timeline, just nothing crazy. Essentially, I have an interview with primary audio, natural sound, and then, of course, some music at the bottom there. And I have a sequence here. This is just a random sequence, nothing crazy. Just to cut in a long, medium, close, and I want to add a photo. So before I go back to my main subject here, who's essentially my interview, I'm going to add a photo that goes along with the story. And I have a few photos to choose from here. First off the bat, I have everything organized in bins. Remember, file management is very important. For photos, I have a photos bin right here. And I got two options to choose from. If you double click on one of your photos in the project panel, it's this guy right here. If you double click on any one of your photos, what it's going to do is it's going to give you a preview of that photo. So I have one landscape photo, and I also have one portrait photo. So we're going to start out with just a normal landscape photo. Now, the easiest way to just import your photo is to just click, hold, and drag. Again, it's just a static photo, so you can just click, hold, and drag to the timeline, your main timeline or main sequence. And essentially, that's going to give you this little purple box right here. And this is your photo. Now, if you're working in 1080p, the big thing is when you import a photo that was taken on a professional camera, like a mirrorless camera or a DSLR, what's going to happen is you're going to see in your program panel a massively blown up photo. And the reason why is because that resolution size is just so large. And it does not fit with the 1080p because that's only 1080 pixels in the horizontal length. So the first thing we have to do is we got to resize this guy. Now, the easiest way to resize is to make sure that the photo is selected. So you can see the white box is selected, and make sure that your playhead is above it so you can see a preview in your program monitor here. And in my source panel, you can see this is what the full photo looks like. But I'm going to switch over to my effects controls right here. This is kind of the engine of how you can control animation, sizing, all kinds of things when it comes to either your video clips or photos. Now, if you don't have this panel, sometimes it doesn't show up. What you can do is you can always go up to the window and just find where it says Effect Controls, and you should be good to go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump into my effects control panel. And okay, I have my photo selected. And the first thing I'm going to do is take a look at my effect controls panel. So there's a couple of things here. These here are like the master controls. They control your clip size, rotation, even the crop point, pretty much kind of anything that you can do with like a Photoshop and resizing images and, you know, making them do something. This is kind of like where it's at. And if you want to resize, you're going to look at the scale right here. So this 100, right? This means it's at, you know, full size. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just hover over that 100. You see those two arrows? What you do is you left click, hold, and drag, and this makes it smaller. So you can see it's smaller. And if I continue to click, hold, and drag and just drag to the right, it gets larger. So that's how you actually fix the scale of your photo. And what you want to do is kind of line it up with that 1080p. As best as you can, try to fill the frame. Now, you can see my head is cut off just a little bit here because When I resized it, it's going to cut off some pixels. And what I have to do is basically just bump it down a little bit. So once you got the sizing to fit the frame, what you then do is go to position. Now, these numbers on the left here represent the x-axis or horizontal. These are the y-axis or the vertical. So if I click, hold, and drag on my horizontal, click, hold, and drag to the left, see how it moves it to the left? If I drag to the right, it moves it to the right. So I'm just going to position the horizontal be right there. And then I'm going to roll on over to my vertical. And I'm going to click, hold, and drag to the left, see how it goes up. And if I click, hold, and drag to the right, it goes down. I'm just going to kind of position myself so I'm not cutting off my head right there, kind of in the rule of thirds. I like that. And that's pretty much that. That's how you can easily resize a landscape photo that comes into Premiere way too large because you might be only working at 1080p. Even some 4K videos, your photos might be a little bit too large. So it's not bad. Right now, this photo is set to play for about 5 seconds. And the thing about this photo is that it's static, right? So I got my sequence here, and then I have a static photo. Now, if you really want to add a little bit of flair, just a little bit of flair, what you can do is add a little bit of tasteful motion. Because again, a video is all about motion, right? So you can actually animate this photo to just give it a little bit of animation to just enhance the storytelling value of it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my playhead is right at the beginning of when the photos start playing. Okay, so right there. And then I'm going to look at that effect control panel. You can see these are where I adjusted the parameters, the position and scale. Now, if you look at this on the right here, this is a kind of like a mini timeline, and it just represents the photo. So this timeline right here just represents this right here. So what I'm going to do is put this playhead all the way to the beginning. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make myself go from right to left. And the way to do that is all about the keyframes. So I'm going to take a look at my position. So when you change these parameters right here, it's fixed. It's fixed. It doesn't animate. It doesn't do anything. The way to animate it is to make sure that this stopwatch is clicked. But before you click it, you want to make sure that you're at your start point here, and you want to position your photo so you have it exactly where you want it to begin. So in this case, I'm going to bring myself to the right. So I'm click, holding, and dragging to the right. And I'm going to actually bump up my scale a little bit, something like that, just to fill the frame. And I might bring myself down a little bit like that. And again, you can adjust this according to your project and your photo. I'm going to do something like that. And essentially, the idea is going to have myself come from right to left. Okay, so I just did a little bit of adjustment there. This is where the animation is going to start. Again, make sure this is at the beginning, aka this is at the beginning. Now, I'm going to click on that position stopwatch. What that does right there is add a little diamond. I know it's hard to see, but this little diamond right here freezes this right here. It's saying, okay, this is where I'm going to start. Now, to add a little bit of animation, all I'm going to do is just drag this playhead in time to the right. Maybe like right there. So almost at the end. I'll put it right there for easy, so it's easily seeable. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just click, hold, and drag on my horizontal to the left. That's going to bring me to the left. See how I'm moving to the left there? And I'm just going to do a little bit of subtle movement here, right there. And so what that did is it added a keyframe. That's what that diamond is right there. So we have that start. That's where we started when I was all the way to the right. And now this keyframe represents this right here. Everything in between is what's known as tweening. So Premiere is like, oh, okay, I'm going to go from here to there. So let's play it back. So all I'm going to do is just bring this from the to the beginning there, and I'm going to hit my space bar to play. And see, I just have a little bit of dynamic movement, and a little bit goes a long way, especially when it comes to storytelling value for any type of multimedia piece or controlled action video. It adds a little bit. Now, there's of course nothing wrong with just having a photo, but this just adds a little bit of movement. But that's pretty much it. It's very simple. The big thing is make sure that you have your photo selected. Make sure that you click the stopwatch and you have it in the position that's going to start at, with this at the beginning, and then you drag this to the end, and then you just literally will place it with these numbers here to where you see fit. It's just that simple. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my portrait photo now. So I have my horizontal, or my landscape photo. So let's take a look at what I got here. I'm going to roll on over to Photos and look at Adobe One Kenobi up here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this portrait photo into my timeline by just click holding and dragging, and there it is. You can see I added my photo. And of course, even as a portrait, because of the resolution that the camera shoots in when it comes to photos, of course, it's too large. So I'm going to roll on over to my effect control panel. And what I'm going to do is just not click the stopwatches because I'm not doing animation. I'm just going to drag that scale down so I can see my photo just like that. Cool. Now, the thing about landscape photos, or should I say portrait photos, is that when you're doing a 1080p normal landscape type of video, it's very hard to fit them because there's going to be a lot of space on the left and the right, naturally, because it's a portrait photo and your video is landscape. Now, what you can do is you can do this little trick that I devised that gives you a little bit of dynamic flow when it comes to making both your portrait move as well as the background, making it clean. So you can see my subject in the background here, and the photo is just right on top. It just looks very jarring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my my timeline here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this photo. And the easiest way to do that is to hit Control C with it selected, and then just bring the playhead a little bit to the right, and then hit Control V. So it's just a duplicate, same photo. And I'm going to put one on top of the other, just like this. So this is my V3. This is V2. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select the bottom one, and I'm going to make it nice and big. So I'm going to take that bottom one right there, make sure it's selected, take a look at my effects control. Again, this is the whole engine on how it works. And I'm just going to make it really large to fill the entire frame. Now, what I'm going to do is add a little bit of an effect to kind of give it a little bit of blur. So I just don't have a larger photo and then a smaller photo. So what I'm going to do is find my effects panel, not effect control, but effects. Usually it's under your project panel here on the bottom left. It's usually under these two arrows and just effects. And if you don't have effects, what you can do is go up to window and then just make sure effects is selected. Usually comes up at the bottom here. And I'm going to type in GAUS. And essentially the idea is I'm going to find my Gaussian blur. I'm going to find the Gaussian blur. Now I still have that background, that duplicate. Well, should I say the original, right? On V2 here, it's selected. I made it larger. Sometimes what you can do is actually hide your V3, the duplicate, so it doesn't become too distracting. And again, I'm just selecting the one on V2, so the whole thing is covered. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that Gaussian blur, and I'm going to click, hold, and drag it to the effect control panel. You can directly put it in the effect control panel, or see that blue bar right there? I could just drop it right now. Or what you can do is just on the timeline, drag it to the actual little box, and you'll see that blue highlighted box, and then you just let go, and that does the same thing. It adds it to the effect control panel. So I'm going to drop this down, my Gaussian blur, and you might have to scroll down a little bit with this bar right here. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit, and there's my Gaussian blur. And what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of blurriness. This is basically the control for Gaussian blur, and I might do like a 50, usually 50 to 60 is really nice. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to maybe give this a little animation. So I have my blurriness. I'm going to scroll back up to the top here. And I'm going to bring my playhead to the beginning, like that. I'm going to click on before I click on anything, I'm going to position it to where it's going to begin. It's usually best practice. So it'll go right to left, just like before. I'll make it just a little bit larger with the scale, just so it fills the frame. Beginning still, click on position, move that playhead. Again, the diamond created, it's now in keyframe mode. Move it to the end here. And I'm just gonna drag this, click, hold, and drag it to the left just to give a little bit of animation. So just kind of coming in like that. Very cool. And what I could do is actually even give this a little bit of vertical animation as well. Maybe like that. Very subtle. You don't want to go too much. That's the whole thing with this. Okay, so I got those keyframes. So now I'm just kind of like sliding in from top right to bottom left right there. Pretty cool. If you ever have to make a readjustment to, like, say, your animation, the most important thing is to look at this right here. Click on these arrows because it's going to go snap exactly to the keyframe. If you don't use the arrows, what's going to happen is you run the risk of making another keyframe, which could jank up your animation. So I'm going to use that right arrow. It's on this guy right here. And I'm just going to make a little bit more of a drastic vertical movement. So I can see just a little bit of that blurred face, something like that. And then I'll play it back. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Basic animation, little Gaussian blur. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to unhide that V3, aka the duplicate. There's my actual portrait photo. And I'm just going to roll over my playhead. And now if I play it back, you can see what's going to happen here. I just have a little bit of animation in the background. And of course, there's my actual portrait, the full portrait photo. So very cool. Adds a little bit of dynamic flow while still filling the frame for a 1080p landscape 4:3 video. Pretty cool. Or should I say 16:9? Now, you can, of course, add some animation to your actual photo as well. And that's going to be up to you, but the same thing is going to apply. Just make sure it's selected. Make sure that your playhead, the mini playhead, mini timeline is at the beginning. And what you can do is give it a little bit of animation. Remember, the key is to start. Have the photo start where you want it to start. Click on the stopwatch. Then drag that mini playhead to the end. Animate. So I'm just click holding and dragging on that number to put the position where I want it to end. This is essentially the tweening that happens. So it's going to go from here to here. No, just play it back. And there we go. Look at that. It just adds a little bit. It's not really required, but sometimes they engage your audience, especially when they're just looking at a photo and you're hearing somebody talk in the background. Just adds a little bit of that visual creativity to it. And it's just that simple to do. Now, just so you're aware, there are other things that you can do. So we just focused on position and scale. There's also things like rotation, there's cropping, even opacity. And essentially, if you look at these options here, it's all the same. They all have these stopwatches because you can keyframe, you can animate almost anything. For instance, animating opacity would literally just animate the actual opaqueness of your photo, like to do like a fade in or fade out. Rotation literally just rotates photo or video. Again, all the options are the same for photo and video or graphics. And then, of course, you can add the effects. And we added that one effect at the bottom to our V2, and that was the Gaussian blur. And again, they have stopwatch as well. So I could even actually animate the blurriness to go from, like, say, not blurry to completely blurry using that keyframe, this mini playhead right here, and then, of course, adjusting the numbers. And that's it. It's just that simple. So no matter how you slice it, the only way to actually put together a great multimedia piece is that it is your vision, your creativity. I can't wait to see what you make. Please leave any comments below if you have any questions, and I'll see you guys in the next one.